These are the sequence of steps that we will have to perform. Now let us try and do these sequence of steps. The first thing is you'll have to run through your machine learning model, ensure that the best model is saved. So we are basically creating the pipeline, right? We are loading the dataset. We are trying to define our machine learning model. And in order to ensure that we use the best model, we are creating pipelines and saving the model, the best model, using one of these libraries, either Pickle or Joblib. Then we have to initialize our Django project. Along with the saved models, we are now going to wrap the saved model with our Django project, Django code. To start with, we have to execute the start project in the command prompt. Okay, so the command prompt. Now, once we have this executed, there will be a folder which will be created. And within the folder, as we discussed, there will be a subfolder created, project name, whatever the application that you're calling it. And then you will have manage.py. So let us try and run this. And then we will see right, what all files it creates and basically how to handle all these different files. All right. So let me open our Anaconda prompt. Okay, so I'm currently in my home directory. I will go to any specific folder which can be used for our code. I have saved my code here, fuel efficiency. So I'll do one thing. I'll use this particular folder. I have the Python code already. I was not showing that, but if you want, you can see this. This is the same code that we have discussed in our previous sessions. You can see all the default libraries are imported here. So yeah, then we are trying to connect to the database, pull the required data. This is our sample code, so sample data. And then we are trying to do all the EDA, perform all the EDA. We are also looking at the categorical data here. Then we are trying to do one-hot encoding on the categorical data. This is a pipeline that we are defining for performing one-hot encoding. We are saving that as ordinal encode using Joblib function. And then we also are trying to build multiple linear regression here. And then we are trying to save that multiple linear regression model. So this is the prediction that we are doing. And here we are saving that multiple linear regression that we have defined here. Right, the saved model, I'm trying to use this Pickle file. So I've basically shown you both Joblib as well as Pickle. You can stick to one library. You don't need to use both. I could save the model using Joblib as well. So we have two saved applications. One is the transformer, one-hot encoding. The other one is our machine learning. Once we have the models, we will be able to use those models and try and do the prediction. All right. So once I did this saving, once I execute this, we will be getting the saved models. I also have the saved models here. You can see the saved models. And I'm not running that once again. These are the two files that we are interested in. Okay. So let me also, right? This is not required. This is basically, if I use Joblib, then I'll get this one. If I use Pickle, then I get encoder.pkl. Just for demonstration, I have used both of them, but for our discussion, these are not required. All right. So we have all the files in place here. Okay. Let me try, and as I said, I'll be using this particular folder. I'll say CD, this one. I'm entered into this folder. I will use this for demonstration purpose, right? So basic code, how was the basic project initialized? So I will use the code here, which is given on the screen. Django-admin start project, you can say project test 1. I'm testing the project, right? So there will be a folder created fuel efficiency MLR folder. So this is my folder. Here you can see project underscore test 1 is not there. We are going to create that. So I executed this line of code. Now you can see that this folder is created. Within this folder, you can see the two contents, the two entities. One is the manage.py file, and there is a folder with the same name. So within the folder, you will have init.py, asga.py, wsga.py, settings.py, urls.py. Okay. This is a very simple, basic code, simple first project that you can define. There's nothing, no functionality yet. So we have seen, right, all these content is created. Now, in order to execute this library or this particular code, we need to enter into the folder. So we are in fuel efficiency.mlr folder, right? So we are outside this. We need to enter into project underscore test 1 where I have manage.py file. So I'll say cd project underscore test 1. You can see there are the two contents, manage.py, project underscore test. Now I will type Python and executing this script /manage.py file. When I execute this, it gives me the URL. By default, it takes the port number 8000. So here I will be opening a new Chrome file. I will launch the URL. And you can see it says the install worked successfully. Congratulations. That means the Django installation is also successful. Please visit the YouTube channel. You can also connect with us. You can also view the content in the blogs. We will be sharing the link of the blog in the chat so that you can refer to the content that is there in the presentation. All the steps will be available there, and you can follow the instructions in the from the blog. We will communicate through the chat messages. All right. So this is a simple first application that you can launch. Okay, I'll close this. This is not required. We will come out of this. You can say Control C to come out of this particular application. So let us now talk about the actual project. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about Django and deployment. Django deployment. So you can see Under the Django deployment, I have manage.py. This is standard file which got created. I have personal. The application name was personal. I have the saved models. And DB SQLite 3 is something which is created by Django for connectivity. This is optional because we are not passing to any data here, right? So it basically takes in empty content. But by default, models will create the SQLite database for connectivity purpose. Then if I look at the templates folder, this is the same template that we have used in our Flask example as well. So it contains the title, which is basically at the top. Then we will have scrolling text. We'll also have a logo of DataAnalytics being projected there. And the page contains a title in red color. And then we have the engine type, which is a categorical data. So we are asking the user to give one of the 4 options that it can accept, right? 5 options: petrol, hybrid, diesel, LPG, and CNG. So these are the only 5 options that we have. Next, we will have the, after the input, we basically take, this is the categorical data. These are the numeric data with ranges. Once we submit, it goes to the views.page. Okay, in views.py, the entire flow is defined, but this is only the HTML. So we will have a submit button. When you click on that, you'll get the result on the same page. You can define multiple pages also, your wish. This is the standard template that I'm using. You'll have to create this folder, templates folder, and put your file. Now, if I go into this personal file, this application, you can see here, I have all the standard files. Views.py is something that we will have to talk. This is a file that we will create. And you can see it is just like your Flask code, app.py code. So we are going to use Django shortcuts to render the HTML. We are using Joblib and Pickle so that it can understand the saved models. The machine learning algorithm was done using Pickle library, and the one-hot encoder was done using Joblib, right? So we are basically passing these 2. Then inputs, we are requesting the inputs and taking the input. This is a string engine type. These are all the integer format files that we are reading in, and we are basically printing this. Here we are doing the prediction by taking the transformed result, and m.predict is basically we are doing OK.transform is for one-hot encoding, and then we are doing the prediction here, and that predictions will be printed. That predictions are again returned back to your index.html only. So this is very similar to your Flask application, the logic that you'll have to. It's a Python code only. So what exactly is happening here, right? So if I have to talk about this, so we will go into the settings.py file. This is one step that we need to do, settings.py file. Here, there is one standard step that we need to follow. You can register your application by giving the name also here in installed apps, but that is not required. By default, the dirs will not containing anything within the brackets. We need to add templates because that is where the templates have to be picked up from. So settings basically says that you need to get your data from this particular location. Okay, we are directing the application to look into this folder. That's one change that we have to do. If I have to show you the same file, let me close this. I will go to the previous empty project that we have created, and let me show you the settings file here. You can see this is how it will be by default given, but you will basically say templates. But remember, this templates is a string, it has to be in quotes, and there should be this folder. This is directory basically. DIRS is nothing but directories. So you're basically redirecting your Django project to look into the templates folder. Okay, so that is the first step that we do in settings.py. Then you also have to load the saved models. So in the current, your parent directory, root directory, you're going to give these two files. Okay, these two files. And then you'll have the templates folders, right? All these things have to be created in the main directory itself. Next is the urls.py. The urls.py let us go to the urls.py. We need to add the URL pattern. So we are basically redirecting the entire application to look into these content. Okay, so admin, this is the main standard. This will be there by default. It's by default given. We are adding these two lines. So we're basically adding the path of the entire URLs. Where does your results be placed at, right? These are your standard URL standards. In Flask, we basically have /root, /home, /results, those things, right? So that is the path that we are talking about. This is the home. From home, it has to redirect to the result. Okay, these URLs we will have to add. By default, it will be given. Under this site URLs, we are adding these two files. Then views.py file, I have shown you that file. We have to add that content. And all these things will be there in the main parent directory, root directory. From here, you will run this particular line of code. Okay, so again, we will have to go to the root directory. So I'll take this content and I will have to go into the main folder. So my folder is personal. What is the folder directory? So okay, personal is the application. So I have Django _ deployment. This is the application that we are creating. That's the main folder, right? The root directory can be anything, friends. You can also rename this. But within the root directory, you will have the name of the application. Okay. So here I will run our server by initializing the manage.py. That's all. So it gives us the URL. Save it. Open it in a new browser. Voila. So you get the model deployed using the Django framework in the backend. As an end user, this is what you will see. So you can pass your input. I'll say diesel. I'll pass 50. The ranges are also given so that the end user should not give the values outside the range. So I'm going to pass these values and I'll say submit. When I click on the submit, it takes the results and the results are published on this particular page. You can see URL, right? This is what we have given in our urls.py. So it is redirecting to that particular page. That's all. So this is how we can deploy the ML model using a web framework. Now, whatever code that we have, the best content, right? The entire content should be there on our GitHub repository. And once it is there in GitHub repository, you will be able to connect to Heroku and then deploy the entire application on Heroku as well. I would love to explain the process, but again, we are lacking on time. But you can refer to the previous videos where we have seen how an ML model is deployed on Heroku to refer to how it can be moved into the Heroku cloud as well. There might be a couple of steps that might be different, but yes, in order to do that, we can people can refer to the blog which we are going to publish, and using that blog, you can try and practice on how to deploy a Django framework, Django-based ML model on your Heroku account. So this is, friends, the Django framework. So we discussed about the 3 most popular web frameworks in Python till now. Once again, just to remind you all, we talked about Flask, we talked about Fast API, we talked about Django in today's session. These are the most 3 popular web framework APIs, right? Libraries which allow us to create web framework APIs. And these are based on the most happening programming language, Python. The next upcoming session, the weekend, we will be talking about Streamlit. And you'll understand how Streamlit is basically different from the entire process that we have done till now. So Streamlit is like an end-to-end tool. You don't need to really write any code and all that. Your ML model can be very readily pushed into the Streamlit account. It probably takes 15 minutes to do everything. You don't need to write HTML at all. Right? So they are readily available. It's like an application which is helping you to avoid all the coding.